Everybody for joining us today. I'm very excited about this webinar. I'm Jerry Abbey, as Joe said, Director of Product Marketing here at Copia, and I lead our research, diving into all sorts of things like the State of Industrial DevOps report, and I'm currently working on a similar report to that using some of our data that was focused on workforce. So the State of the Industrial DevOps workforce, and I'm going to be referencing a lot of that today. And I also just wrote a 2025 Future of Manufacturing piece that's available now on our website. We're going to be touching on some of those trends as well. And while working on all of this, I reached out to Sebastian just to test some ideas, and he has a lot of great research as well, which is what triggered this fireside chat today. And Sebastian, I'll let you go ahead and introduce that part.
Well, thanks so much, Jerry. I appreciate your words. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the audience. Again, it's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Jerry, and thanks to the Copia team for having me again today, sharing the virtual stage with you, this time to discuss an exciting topic, which is the workforce challenges in 2025, right? Very quickly, my name is Sebastian Trolli. I'm based out of Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm the research manager and global head of the industrial automation and software research program at Frost & Sullivan. And I've been in the company for 3 years now, but prior to that, 3 years and a half. But prior to that, all my professional journey was dedicated to manufacturing and industrial automation, right? Working for chemical industries in manufacturing and for tier 1 industrial automation and software companies in the past, being engineer, consultant, business development, so a lot of roles there. Thank you so much again for having me here and looking forward to this exciting discussion today.
Thanks for being here, Sebastian. Looking forward to hearing your perspective on all of this and leveraging that wealth of experience that you have well beyond Frost & Sullivan. I've enjoyed getting the context from you, especially working on this workforce report, hearing about Wintel and what you learned from more senior engineers to you in your experiences. So to kick it off, I know we talked about this a little bit in our prep, but what are some of the key challenges that you're seeing around the workforce in 2025?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a really good question to set the context, right? Well, based on our research, Frost & Sullivan research, even though, the manufacturing workforce context, particularly in 2024 and what we are seeing in 2025 is a really broad topic. I would like to summarize the key challenges, in 3 main categories, right? Being the first one, talent shortage, right? Which of course is very related to economic uncertainty, right? In terms of talent shortage, what we are seeing is there are a lot of difficulties, particularly in manufacturing sector. This is industry-wise, but particularly in the manufacturing sector, we are seeing, difficulties attracting and retaining talent despite a relatively strong labor market, right? And particularly in the US, right? Projections suggest that there could be a potential shortfall of 1.9 million workers if these trends are not addressed, right? And what we saw during 2024 is a drop in employment figures from 13 million in January 2024 to 12.9 million in November 2024, right? So I would say that's one of the main challenges there. The second is we know we have amazing technology advancements, but how that impacts into the skills gap, right? Our research finds that even though there is a quick and fast and rapid adoption, of AI-driven technologies and process automation technologies, I would say 97% of the manufacturers whom we speak with are planning to increase their AI investments by 2030, right? But in spite of that, I would say that nearly 50% of manufacturers, executives, cite talent shortages as a top concern. Thing is, between 2024 and 2033, according to our research, almost 4 million different employees will be created, and most of that will need really advanced technology skills and capabilities from the people, right? So that's another concern that we are seeing, that what we call the skills gap. And there is a third challenge, which is worth mentioning, is the aging workforce and generational transition, right? Because it's a fact that the retirement of the baby boomer generation, right, is exacerbating labor shortages. And on the other hand, only for 14% of the Gen Z people is attracted to manufacturing, right? And maybe someone is wondering why is that happening, right? Why just 14 people of the new generation is attractive or is finding manufacturing attractive, right? And well, there are a bunch of reasons, but just to name a few, there are negative misconceptions around working conditions and in manufacturing, and also there is limited awareness of modern and high-tech manufacturing environments, right? Probably when someone thinks about manufacturing, thinks about the old factories, right, from the previous centuries. But the truth is that the manufacturing industry is, since I would say the 2010s, is incorporating amazing technologies that we are seeing in the consumer side. Well, those same technologies, of course, adapted to manufacturing, are being introduced in the manufacturing world as well. So I think there is a misconception and lack of awareness of the manufacturing industry, right? So what we are trying to discuss today for 2025 is how to or not to do certain things, right, to properly address those three challenges, right?
Absolutely. And before we dive into those 5 things not to do, I also wanted to hear about the strategic initiatives that you had mentioned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's part of our research as well at Frost and Sullivan, right? How to overcome those, at least those 3 key challenges, right? The skills gap, the talent shortage, the workforce retirement, and the lack of interest from the Gen Z people, right? Well, these are broad initiatives, but we need to take care of them, right, in order to overcome these initiatives. First of all, upskill, reskill your workforce, right, with the new technologies. Then there should be campaigns there to try to let the people know that manufacturing is a modern industry. It's not the last century concept, right, of old factories, probably boring or high demanding work environments. So modernizing the industry's image is another strategic initiative that companies are pursuing, right, to mainly to attract top talent in the Gen Z generation, right? Another strategic initiative is diversity, inclusion, and flexible work, right? Try to expand the recruitment efforts to underrepresented groups and offering, of course, inclusive work environments, right? And on the other hand, offering flexible schedules would help improve, the work-life balance, which is something that particularly since the pandemic is something that is pursued by every single person, I would say, in the world, right? Every single worker, right? The possibility to work remotely in flexible schedules, right? To try to to balance the work and family life, right? And last but not least, this is something that not many people talked about, but it's very important, which is leverage technology, and with the inception of AI, leverage AI in the recruitment process, right? If you use, if HR departments use AI tools, right, to, streamline candidate screening, right, or to identify potential skill matches, there will be enough time for them to focus on strategic initiatives, right? Like, for instance, how to retain the top talent. So basically, I would say those are the 4 key or some of the key strategic initiatives to overcome these workforce challenges, right?
Totally. And I know we're going to dig into all of those deeper as we address the top 5 things not to do in 2025. And now that we're going to dive into those, I'm going to list them off just for our audience's awareness. And then we're going to dig into each one at a time. So, as identified in our discussions, the top 5 things not to do in 2025: continue forward with the status quo. Number 1. Number 2, ignore your workforce. Number 3, force fit AI. Number 4, neglect cybersecurity. And number 5, ignore or underestimate the power from industrial DevOps to address many of the issues that Sebastian already touched on. So to get a little more granular here, status quo. What are we meaning by that? It's just letting things ride. Saying, while there's lots of technology out there, our margins are good. Our workforce is good enough. Our technologies that we're using are good enough. Sebastian, what's the number one problem you see with that approach?
Well, yeah, in order to not to continue, right, with the status quo, I would like to highlight some key points, right there. The first one is being one of the problems is the cost, what we would like to call it in Franz and Sullivan, the cost of stagnation, right? Because according to our research, right, Jerry, about 60% of manufacturers risk losing up to 10% to 15% of their market share if they do not modernize their operations by this year, right, by 2025. And sticking with what already works neglects quick shifts in customer demands and global competition, right? And this leads to sluggish productivity and, of course, stifle innovation, right? So the cost of stagnation is one of the key risks and main issues of continuing with the status quo, right? Another key point that I see here is we have to leverage effective change management, right? And for that, when we all know that change doesn't happen spontaneously, right? And it requires a strategic approach that, unifies leadership vision, transparent communication, continuous employee engagement, right? And investing in training programs and rolling out pilot projects accelerates learning curves, making resistance to innovation less daunting, right? And one phrase that I like to say always here is that change management done right transform fear of disruption into a catalyst for progress. And I don't know, Jerry, if you have some thoughts on that, but if not, I would like to dive deeper into the third important point here of this first not to do thing in 2025, which is the PPT framework, right? The famous PPT framework, people, process, and technology, right? I always said, sorry, that success relies on the synergy between the people, process, and technology, right? In terms of people, train and empower your teams to adapt and collaborate, sorry. In terms of process, ensure operations can quickly integrate new solutions. And in terms of technology, leverage real-time insights and automation technologies and now AI technologies to boost efficiency, right? And if you do this, you take care of the three different aspects or elements of the PPT framework, the outcome would be people, process, and technology align, right? And this will help organizations move from acceptable performance to, a lasting competitive edge in the market. So from my perspective, Jerry, those would be the three key points to highlight regarding this first not to do thing in 2025.
Oh, 100%. And I know a lot of that bleeds into our next one, which I think we can shift into. Just some last thoughts on that status quo. You almost instantly lose your competitive edge by sticking with status quo. It's going to bleed through everything within the organization, all of the data out there that you mentioned and the other data I've been reading and seeing and just experienced over the years. When you stick with that status quo, it's only fine for a little while and it won't be for long. And that goes right into number two, ignoring your workforce. If you're sticking with status quo, you are ignoring your workforce. You're ignoring all of the research around what the workforce today wants. I was reading research by Gallup, really digging in to understand the more macro picture of what's happening, especially in the US. So I'll come back to the Gallup, but from AARP, we see that 10,000 retirement age people are reaching that age daily. That's cross industry. So manufacturing, you mentioned earlier, is only capturing the attention, I think, of 13-14% of the new generation of worker. And when you have this huge retirement age coming in, this next generation coming in, we're seeing cross-industry trends where people understand those advantages of flexible work, remote work. And in the Gallup poll, it talks about what employees are looking for. And the generations really are not that much different. They're looking for purpose. They're looking for an organization that invests back in them, does not ignore the workforce, but invests in that training that you mentioned, Sebastian, so that they feel like they're adding value to themselves and also adding more value to the company. And we're going to be digging into that more on the next one with the investment in technology. And also, like you mentioned, those technologies that are coming out where people have these smartphones that can do amazing things, iPads, different technologies in the home, Alexa, all of these different things that incorporate AI. Like, I think too many people write off older generations saying that they're stuck in the ways that they do things. And what the real problem is usability. The technology that they're being given, they're not getting enough training on, or the technology that they brought in, they weren't bought into that change management piece, or the technology is just overly complicated. And maybe there was a different vendor if you had just brought in the people that are going to use it and let them test it before bringing it in. I know I just spoke a bunch there, Sebastian, and I want to pass it back to you to add on that.
No, well, that's great. You summarized this point really well, Jerry. And in the previous point, I know that I talked too much. Sorry. So we are balanced right now. Now, truth to be told, I completely agree, 100% agree. Just to give you some numbers from our research, right? That helps, or provide evidence to what you are saying and what you are discovering in your research on the state of the manufacturing workforce, right? In 2025. Our estimate says that at least in manufacturing, about 40% of employees will need some sort of reskilling or upskilling in 2025. Okay. And why is that important? Because manufacturing executives are seeing really value in that. In fact, according to our research, 83% of manufacturing employees report higher job satisfaction when they receive some kind of training on new technologies, and 87% of the people working on the manufacturing environment, on the manufacturing industry, feel even more motivated when they are provided with adequate training, right? So it's proven that investing in training, in developing your workforce, in taking care of your workforce, helps improve productivity at the end of the day. If you have employees that are motivated, that are enjoying their jobs, productivity and of course profitability will grow immediately, right? So, but not just investing in training and developing your workforce is essential, but also fostering, a culture of collaboration and trust, right? And that is something that DevOps will touch on that later, but DevOps contributes a lot on that, right? But it's very important to foster a culture of collaboration, a culture of trust between your employees, improving your communication skills, trust in technology adoption, right? You have to overcome the fear. If you're a manufacturing executive, you have to communicate really well to your employees that, there's a fear of AI displacing my job or our jobs, but you have to reinforce the message saying that AI will not displace your job, but it will help you even being more productive, right? But in order to overcome that fear, right, the manufacturing executives needs to, elaborate or develop really, really good communication skills, communication campaigns among their workforce, right? And in order to overcome that anxiety, right? So that's what I can say in terms of adding to your thoughts on take care of your workforce, invest in training them, invest in upskilling, reskilling them, foster a culture of collaboration, build a really good culture of communication to overcome those anxieties, those fears around particularly AI, right?
Totally. And as we launch into don't force fit AI, Another point on that training. So from our workforce report, which will be published later this month, we see that 92% of organizations, the high majority, are investing in training. And I like your point there of getting towards the right training. What is not just investing in any training at all, but the right training to help them succeed, whether that is focused in the new technology that you brought in, a technology that's underused within the organization, or leadership training in how to lead knowledge transfer, which is such a critical topic today. How is your organization set up to transfer knowledge? Do you have mentoring relationships? Are you pairing older workers with younger workers to help fuse that culture of responsibility and shared learning in the effort to move towards continuous learning? And that's where I think AI can play a real role in fusing those types of relationships together. Sebastian, I see you nodding your head. What are your thoughts there?
No, exactly. I 100% agree, Jerry. Again, yes, of course. One thing I would like to add here is that, digital transformation is a no-brainer today. Every single manufacturer, no matter if you are a large manufacturer, a small manufacturer, a medium manufacturer, but you have to embark on your digital transformation, digital maturity journey, right? But since I would say 2023, and with all the inception of AI, the explosive growth of AI, what I would say is that if you are embarking on your digital transformation journey, you have to have a really well-established strategy, right? But not just strategy anymore, but AI-driven strategy. Today, digital transformation initiatives should be backed up by AI, because AI is here to stay. Of course, and we will discuss it later, there are some concerns around it, but adopt an AI-driven digital transformation strategy, right? Because that will allow, boost your productivity, foster collaboration between executive roles and operational roles. So that's something that I would say, right? But again, something very important, as you said, do not forfeit AI into your digital transformation strategy, right? Don't implement AI just for the sake of it, right? But also on the other hand, do not overlook its importance, right? You have to clearly define your business goals and identify AI or how AI can help you achieve them, right? So again, adopt AI, do not force fit it, right? Implement pilot projects first, right? That's a really good strategy. Start small pilot projects and then gradually scale in technology implementation. We already touched upon on aligning AI with broader business objectives, and also assess the AI impact. And again, sorry to repeat this, but again, I'll go back to the PPT framework, right? People, process, and technology. Assess the AI impact on this framework, right? In terms of people, for instance, boosting productivity against potential job displacement, identify and address any skills gap. In terms of processes, for instance, streamline operations, improve efficiency, support sustainability goals, adapt workflows to accommodate AI integration. And in terms of technology, you have to ensure that, again, everyone's talking about AI, and for fitting, as you said, AI into your strategy is something you must avoid, right? But for that, you have to ensure that your IT infrastructure and your OT infrastructure are ready to embrace AI, right? And of course, for that, you have to build a solid technology foundation. So there are a lot of things here, right? In terms of people, in terms of processes, in terms of technology, right? On how to properly implement AI into your digital transformation strategy.
Totally. And there's so much to unpack there, Sebastian. So going back to your point about having an aligned goal on what you want the AI that you bring in and invest in to accomplish, like anything in your organization, creating that plan, getting people around it, getting people that are detractors and critical of it, to poke holes and really refine that plan so that you're adding value. You're not just throwing it. And I've heard so many examples of people just throwing money at AI or including them in goals just to make people use it. And that's not going to be helpful for the business. Going back to that job displacement that you mentioned, there is a
Mm,
real fear of that out there.
mm,
And I think one of the best things was the points we brought up in that last part about training your workforce, educating them on the benefits, the way that it can make their job upskilled and more value adding, more enjoyable, very likely for them, maybe less rigorous. And it also makes me think about an example from one of my previous companies. We had a customer tell us about how they got people bought into the technology. And what they did was an internship with somebody that was within co-opetition with them. And they sent their biggest detractors down for a free internship with that company to help them do work. They're not competing directly, but they weren't totally not competitors. And those detractors worked in that shop for 3 months, learned the technology, came back, and were the biggest champions of the technology because they were able to
mm,
see it in action. Like, what better way to learn than to be using it, touching it, working with it, and around seasoned people that had been using it for months and years. So when you're thinking about I know that might not necessarily be possible, but there might be ways to work with it. And I really love the pilot idea, but I also want to flag a lot of people love pilots, but then it's
mm,
really hard to move beyond pilots. And to avoid, maybe this is the sixth thing, avoid pilot purgatory. Don't get stuck in them. Don't try and refine everything to perfection. It's a process of iteration. You use the
exactly.
pilot, you can move on from there to like a multi-plant rollout and then scale it beyond that as you tweak and use different types of plants and environments so that you can have that next phase beyond the pilot to understand some of the realities and make changes before you go straight into scale.
Mm,
And one last point, just a personal point. I use AI on a daily basis, and I find that it is extremely helpful. But also going back to that value adding, like anything, you could get lost in it. So that's an important consideration. You could refine and refine all day. I work on reports all the time. You have to know, and maybe that's part of the training, when enough is enough and it's time to move on. And looking for those AI products, AI co-pilots, the different technologies out there that can support your learning in a functional, productive way. And just because I am so close to it, Copia recently launched a co-pilot, and our co-pilot is built with that intention and that understanding in mind, so that it's focused on the things that people are working on, like documentation. That can be a burden because of everything we talked about with the workforce, the skills gap, the shortage of labor. And when you're dealing with those things, documentation seems to fall by the wayside. But if you have a co-pilot that can help you quickly and easily document and put that into your system and have it there for the new people that you're onboarding, it makes such a lasting difference. And there's other features as well, but that always just stands out to me so much.
no, yeah. Oh, sorry, Jerry. I didn't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, well, I was going to hand it off to you, moving into our neglecting cybersecurity, or any last thoughts on this one?
No, yeah, of course. AI copilots are amazing. It helps you automating routine tasks, as you said, offering support for decision making. But we have to keep in mind that AI isn't perfect. AI sometimes hallucinates. I'm not saying AI copilot, Copia's AI copilot does this, but in general, ChatGPT, on all these models around there, they are not perfect, right? So it's extremely important to always have or rely on the human judgment or keeping human in the loop, right? So that is
100%.
really
Yeah.
important. I just wanted to mention that because AI is a wonderful tool, but at the end of the day, and I'm convinced about this, at least at this stage of AI evolution, you need to have the human in the loop, the people, the persons there, the worker to validate AI's outcomes, right?
Yeah. And at the heart of everything, like Dr. Deming, founder of
Mm,
quality and process, always pointed out, there is no substitution for a good process. Process is everything. That is what everything is built on. And if you can focus on process for your workforce, then, like specifically for the industry we're working in, then you move on to what makes sense to automate and use the human in the loop to continually improve that process, continuous improvement, add automation, other places where it makes sense. But yeah, people, process, and technology, that if you get that balance right, that is the amplifier for 2025 and beyond.
Absolutely.
All right, cybersecurity. So don't neglect cybersecurity. I know cybersecurity has been a very in the news topic more and more each year. Why is it important to make sure that we're not neglecting cybersecurity, Sebastian?
Well, first of all, this is from a research of the Industry Week magazine. In 2023, I had to read the latest numbers in 2024, but in 2023, manufacturing was the #1 industry attacked by ransomware in the US. So, and why particularly cybersecurity in manufacturing is extremely important? Because we are not just talking about financials, right, or losing money. In manufacturing, if you have a breach, it disrupts production, compromise safety, and also can harm a company's reputation, right? But I would like to particularly focus on the safety, right? Manufacturing deals with, at some points, critical processes, dangerous processes. A single breach that disrupts operation can end up in, having, people affected, people harmed, people in accidents, right? So that is why cybersecurity in manufacturing is so important. And there are different types of measures here, right? Or measures that you can take or steps that you can make, right? For instance, network segmentation, access controls, intrusion detection systems. There are many safety measures that you can take. It could be a topic for an entire webinar, right? OT in cybersecurity in OT environments. But yeah, it is extremely important, right?
So important. And we see more and more use cases around Copia, just specifically within the cybersecurity space. Recently launching a technical partnership with Clarity because we see the importance of getting your networking secure, monitored in the right place, getting all of your assets identified, and then bringing in Copia as part of that next phase for disaster recovery, automated backup, that completes your cycle of really making sure you're secure and that you can recover in the event of a disaster. And regardless if there's a disaster, just knowing that peace of mind that you have the right process in place and the right technology to support it, and you're enabling your workforce to feel confidence and control in their environment, which also brings me to something I think about all the time: safety. The safety of your workers, knowing that there is a secure space, also knowing that there is a space for failure. We talk about downtime so much, and our report over the summer, the state of industrial DevOps, our respondents attributed about 4.2 million per hour of downtime. Regardless of what your number is for downtime, it is huge, and that is a huge pressure on your organization. But if you have that type of system in place with disaster recovery, you know that if something fails at the click of a button, you can roll it back and minimize or eliminate downtime. Just trying to pull that thread on the importance of cybersecurity and thinking about all the implications, especially around workforce.
Absolutely. And it's not just about technology. Again, go back to the PPT framework, right? It's not just about technology, right? If we think about people, you know that about 90 to 95% of the breaches are caused by human error, right? So here again, the importance of taking care of your workforce. Train them even for the easiest things regarding cybersecurity, right? Recognizing strong phishing attempts, emphasizing on configuring strong passwords, building a workforce, a culture that prioritizes safety and security, right? Stay informed, stay proactive, right? It's not just the technology, but it is also the people and the process side of the framework, right? And I would also like to add two final things on this topic, also for the sake of time. We know industrial DevOps, but we have to incorporate security in DevOps, and that is called DevSecOps, right? So going back a little bit to technology, but also to people and processes as well, I would like to say that do not neglect cybersecurity by implementing DevSecOps practices, right? Which could be, shift left security, infrastructure as a code, security as a code. Again, we can have another 1 hour webinar discussing about industrial DevSecOps, right? But embrace DevSecOps, and this is more like a technology perspective. Invest in solutions that gives you code visibility and also disaster recovery, right? That's part of cybersecurity as well, right? From a technology perspective.
100%. And that is a great way to lead us into the last one. And I will keep it short just for the time, but industrial DevOps. Don't underestimate the power of industrial DevOps this year. I have been doing research at length in the space. You have as well. But it's growing more and more. The more industry analysts we talk to, the more a light is shined on industrial DevOps, and we see the industrials starting to grab onto it, understanding the impact that it had on IT, like an unbelievable exponential impact. And I think sometimes when you see something that is so impactful, it can be hard to believe, but we're doing case study after case study where we're seeing the process change and the impact and amplification of the workforce. And also going back to all these topics, if you move forward with industrial DevOps, you're getting that competitive edge above the status quo. You're embracing your workforce and giving them modern tools, so you're attracting that next generation, showing that manufacturing of old is very different today. And finding a way to bring in AI in a value-adding way, and also securing your operations. And I'm going to pass it off to you. I want to hear your thoughts, Sebastian, on why industrial DevOps is a growth opportunity this year and people should be thinking about it.
Exactly, and industrial DevOps will be featured in our top 10 growth opportunities for industrial automation software report 2025 that will be hopefully published by late January. Just two data points that we found on our research on industrial DevOps. Those manufacturing organizations that have adopted industrial DevOps practices experience a 49% increase in deployment frequency and a 60% improvement in lead time for changes, right? And it's really a strategic tool to adopt, to embrace, version control, automated testing, continuous improvement, continuous development pipelines, right? So, and there are solutions like Copia solutions, right, that helps you particularly implement these industrial DevOps practices in PLC programming environments, automating backups, change detections, unified repository for multiple devices, and of course, Git-based source control. So our research indicates that those manufacturing organizations, particularly discrete manufacturing organizations that implement DevOps practices and DevOps technologies, have those benefits, in solutions deployment, in lead time for changes. So it's for sure a top growth opportunity in this space, in the industrial automation and software space for 2025. For 2025, sorry, no question about it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sebastian. And also, I love all of the data that's out there. I love seeing the impact. But more than anything, the quotes that I've been hearing from our customers, one has just been so stuck in my mind because I'm including it in our workforce report. And this is the VP of operations at one of our customers talking about how beyond all the technology, it's the people that matter most. And bringing in a tool that immediately makes the people better and him better is absolutely extraordinary. And that was his experience bringing in Industrial DevOps. It's just so powerful. I couldn't underscore it enough.
Exactly. You know, again, going back to the PPT framework, right? Industrial DevOps embraces the three elements, right? But the people is the most important one, of course. Okay, you have the technology, right? But how to implement those processes by the people is the most important thing. And this could be, you know, on a PLC programming environment or some other, you know, technology related environment, but the principles, the methodologies, right? The processes implemented by people is by far the key element when embracing industrial DevOps solutions to improve your productivity, to improve your profitability, you know, to grow your business at the end of the day.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And with that, I think we can open it up to questions if we have time, Joe.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment. If anyone's interested, feel free to ask some questions in the chat. But yeah, I'm not sure we'll have any. We can always reach out afterwards as well.
Great. Well, if no questions, we can start to wrap it up. If any pop in, that's great, and we can address them. But I just want to say thank you again to our audience for joining. Really appreciate having you here today, and I hope that it was helpful to think about these things, these 5 things not to do in 2025, and the flip side of that, how you can shift into what to do and plan out your year. And I want to thank you, Sebastian, for all of your great research and for joining today. Really appreciate it and always love having a chat with you.
Absolutely, Jerry. It's me. I'm the grateful here. Thank you. Thanks to the audience for listening to this exciting and really interesting discussion for this year, for 2025. Thank you, Jerry. Thanks to the Copy organization for having me today. It's always a pleasure to discuss about the latest trends in the industry. And let me tell something to the audience, please. I feel that with the upcoming report on the state of the manufacturing workforce in 2025 will happen the same. But please, if you have some time, please have a look at the state of the industrial DevOps, the first annual state of the industrial DevOps report that was developed by Jerry and the Copia team, because it's a great service to the industrial community. It gives you, of course, a lot of qualitative research insights from key people in the industrial DevOps space, but also it gives you quantitative evidence on why embracing industrial DevOps principles, processes, and technologies will be extremely beneficial for your business, right? So thank you so much, and see you next time. Thanks, Jerry, and thanks to the Copia team.
Thanks, Sebastian. Have a great rest of your day. Everybody who's joined us, have a great rest of your day, and thank you again.